What's up guys, John here and welcome back to John Moon Studios. In today's video, I'm going to continue the series on composing music using the score editor inside of Logic Pro X. Let's get right to it. So last time we saw how to draw in notes and the different ways we can input notes inside of the score editor. And we also saw that the MIDI region inside the track window is directly correlated with the score editor inside of Logic Pro X. So without a region inside of the track window, we do not have a score. So today we're going to talk about adding different dynamic markings and any kind of markings you want to put inside of the score editor. So when you give this to a musician to read or a score for a conductor to read, it has all of the articulations and dynamics that it needs in order for the musicians to know how to play your music. I'm going to go ahead and write a couple notes in the staff. So I'm going to be writing in the key of F, and I'm going to go ahead and write just a little F major scale going up. And then I'm just going to come right back down. Okay, so now let's say we want to add some instructions so our musicians can read this a lot better. So the first part is, this is in the key of F. So let's say we want the readers to just read a key signature. I'm going to open up the key signature window here, which is the symbols with all the flats on it. And then I'm just going to go to the key of F. And I have two ways of doing this. I can click on the key of F. I'm going to click right after the grayed out area. And there it's going to apply my key signature. And then it's going to take off the accidental on the B flat. Or if I go back and I put this in C, I can drag this again to the part right after the grayed out part, and it's going to apply the key signature in there. So now that we have the key signature in there, let's say I want this musician to play a legato passage, and I want to do the slur line that goes with the legato passage. I'm going to go into where the slurs are, which is this little line right here, and I have different options. I can use a legato with the curve going up or the legato with the curve going down. In this case, this is a legato with the curve going down, so you could do it this way, or you can modify it after you put it in. So let's say I just grab this one, so I can click and set my legato anywhere. So once I have it highlighted, I click anywhere and it's going to insert it. Now, of course, I chose the wrong one because technically a slur with the curve going down would be the correct way to do it. But I chose this one so you could see how I edit this afterwards. So if I click on it with my pointer tool, and then I drag this out to the note I want it to be at, and then I pull this middle one down, I can actually change the direction of the curve, giving me the curve that I want. So of course there's a much easier way of doing it, which is just grabbing the curve that's already down and then using my pointer tool and just extending it out, and there I have my legato or slur line that I want to apply so my musicians know to play this legato, everything's smoothly connected. Another thing that's important for musicians to know is dynamics, of course. So you want to put dynamics under the first note that they actually play. And I'm going to say I want them to play a mezzo forte. Again, I just highlight mezzo forte and I click on the score, and then there I have my mezzo forte. If I want to move this afterwards, I grab my pointer tool and I can move this around a little bit just so that it looks nice and not in the way of the slur line. So let's go ahead and drag this a little bit down, and there we have our mezzo forte. And now let's say we want in the next measure to crescendo to a fortissimo. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crescendo marking. I'm going to close all these windows so we know what we're doing here. And I'm going to leave the crescendo marking one open. And I'm going to grab my crescendo. And again, I just click. And now with my pointer tool, I can drag these out and position it to however I want in my score. So I'm just going to put this down a little bit so it's in the center of the dynamic and it looks nice. And then I'm going to go on the other side of this and write my fortissimo. So I'm going to click on fortissimo, click here, grab my pointer tool, make it look nice, not in the way of any lines, and now I have my fortissimo. So as you see, I'm starting to add some instructions for my musicians to read, and if I play this back, you see that none of it is heard because again, these are just for the musicians to read. This is not telling the MIDI what to do. It's just instructions for the musicians to read. So you won't hear any changes, but just know that this is what you want the musician to play. And in MIDI form, what you would do is use expression or modulation, or you can use velocity in order to simulate these dynamic curves. So let's say now we want the last 3 notes to have some kind of staccato marking. Again, we're going to go back into our little box and we're going to go into this menu here that has a bunch of different things, fermatas, it has accents, it has marcatos, it has down bow, up bow, and this time I want to get the staccato marking. So it's going to be this dot right here, and I'm going to go ahead and just click where I want the staccato. So I want it to be here, I want it to be here, and I want it to be here. And just like that, you see I created my staccato markings, and it's already starting to look like something a musician would read to get your music recorded. There's a bunch of other symbols as well. So like, let's say we want to repeat these 2 bars. Of course, inside of Logic, it won't repeat, but we can definitely add a repeat sign. So let's go ahead and just drag this out here. And then I'm going to drag the opposite one here. And that way we have a little repeat sign. And again, it's not going to directly translate to what you hear in Logic, but at least the musicians now know that you want this bar to be repeated. So let's see what it sounds like. All right. And again, it won't repeat because that's not what MIDI land is saying here. We are just doing this for the musicians, just a formality, so when the musicians read it, they understand what they have to do. So inserting these musical instructions is actually just as easy as clicking a button and then clicking on whatever instruction you want to insert inside your score. And no matter what layout you're doing it in, whether it's the horizontal mode, which is what I like to call playback mode, in part form, which I like to call it part form because this is what you give to the musicians. They're going to be reading their part. And then you're going to also see it in score mode, which is what the conductor will be looking at. And if you have multiple instruments, then of course, this would be called piano. And if we duplicate this, you're going to see that I'm going to have another piano inside of the score. Now you might say, where's the piano? Remember, the track, the MIDI region in the track window has to have some kind of MIDI activity for something to pop up in the score editor. So if I just go ahead and pop this like this, and then I switch back to my pointer tool and I let go of the highlight. If you just highlight it, then it's only going to show you one part. But if you let it go, now you start to see we have 2 piano parts. This is a cool way for you to single out particular instruments you want to see only in score mode. And now for a little bonus tip, let's say you don't want a piano staff. You just want this to be a single staff and you want to call this a violin. We'll call this violin 1. And then of course, this has to match the name, and the hotkeys that I'm pressing is Option Shift N to automatically rename everything in the region. And now let's say I want this, but we know that violin 1 or violin in general does not read in the grand staff. It doesn't have to have a bass clef. So what we do is we click back inside of the score mode, which gives you this dialog here. And then if we go all the way up, we're going to see something that says style. If I click on that and I just put, let's say the instrument that I'm playing, in this case, there's no instrument called violin here, but I can easily open up the staff style window, which we won't get into right now, but you can insert it in there as well. All I know is that the violin reads in treble clef. So if I hit treble clef, and as you see, this is the new treble clef. If I click out in the track window, now we have our grand staff, and then we have our violin 1, only using the treble clef. So that's how you insert some dynamics. That's how you insert some markings, some musical instructions, key signatures for the musicians to read inside of the score editor in Logic Pro X. And I gave you a little bonus tip on how you could switch the actual staff style so that it matches the instrument that you're playing. If you have any questions throughout the video, just go ahead and drop your comments down below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the ring button so you don't miss any of my weekly videos. Also, don't forget to check out the John Moon Studios store. I have a variety of merch with the official John Moon Studios logo on it, so go ahead and check it out. The link is down below in the description. As always, don't forget to share with your musician friends. I'll see you guys soon.